have a certain quality of life that we'd like to maintain here in the United States. If you compare that to the quality of life in another country, we typically have a higher standard of living.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if the entire population of the Earth was to try to maintain our standard of living, I believe it's estimated it require the resources of anywhere from 5 to 7 Earths
Yeah,
to
that's the
maintain
thing. I mean,
ours.
we're in
Looking into this is a task for STOA, the Parliamentary Science and Technology Options Assessment Body, which provides independent scientific advice to the European Parliament. STOA carries out projects that assess policy options from a scientific and technological perspective.
No, I think recycling is a waste of time.
No, I don't recycle. That's for dirty hippies and dirty commies.
No!
I don't recycle. I drink Coke and Pepsi and I throw it in a trash can and not a recycling bin.
So we're here with Kevin Morris from ERM, Environmental Resources Management, and we're going to be asking him a couple questions today for our government project.
Hi Kevin, thank you for coming today. Could you just start off and explain the background of ERM and what you guys do as a whole?
Sure. ERM, as you said, Environmental Resources Management. We're a global consulting company. We do consulting services for environmental, risk, health and safety, social, and sustainability services.
Awesome. So what is it that you do specifically for the company?
I am a technical director.
Okay.
I work in the practice that we call contaminated site management.
Okay.
So I identify, develop, review remediation strategies for contaminated groundwater and soil.
Okay. What do you think that the government could do to preserve our natural resources?
Well, one of the things that the government has done and is been doing for almost 100 years is to set aside lands that everyone agrees will not ever be developed. The national park system is one way of setting aside lands that are just never going to be developed. The other thing is to really provide more funding for research in looking at alternative energy technologies.
Tradable carbon units are one of the most effective weapons in the battle for a better environment. But what is a carbon unit? A carbon unit is a permit to emit 1 ton of CO2. This is equal to the emissions of a one-way flight from Oslo to Bangkok for one person, or 5 months of driving by an average Norwegian motorist. So how does the emission trading scheme actually work? The emission trading scheme determines how much CO2 and other greenhouse gases we can emit. In 1997, most of the countries in the world signed the Kyoto Protocol. The aim of this agreement is that all industrialized countries should reduce their total emissions of greenhouse gases by at least 5% from 2008 to 2012, compared to their emissions in 1990. The UN distributes quotas of carbon units to those industrialized countries that have signed the treaty. These units set a limit on the level of emissions. This limit is equivalent to the total amount of CO2 that these countries are permitted to emit, and which is less than the anticipated emissions.
So, back in 2009, a bill was going through the House called Cap and Trade. Are you familiar with it?
Absolutely, yes.
So, what do you think of the Cap and Trade legislature that went through the House?
So I think it was, in theory, it was a valiant effort.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the way it's set up, it allows for a lot of mismanagement
Okay.
and rather nefarious accounting for that type of cap and trade, because you're looking at carbon credits and moving them around, and there's companies that develop to just do that, to move carbon credits from one company to another,
Right.
and it becomes kind of a shell game.
Okay.
So if it can be very effectively monitored and regulated, then it could be a useful tool.